What a guan, what a guan. Welcome to TDI TV, and I am the Dirty Immigrant. Tonight, tonight I want to address something, and I think it's more prevalent now that there is a supposed black president, and I say supposed because he's mixed. But everybody's considered him black, so it seems like that is an issue that's coming on a lot. Now, there's a lot of reasons why this persists. It could be cultural, it could just be economical. There's just several reasons. Now, its persistent is helped along by one thing that I've noticed. The fact that nobody, black and white, ever sits down as friends mainly, not as great debaters or politicians or preachers, just people in general. Even people that are of both races that are friends don't really talk about it. Now, I have several white friends, and some of them, not all of them, but some of them, whenever I mention that, I always pay attention to their reaction. And I always get this reaction, and sometimes I get this reaction from people I don't expect it from. There's two basic reactions I get. Number one, if I ever mention the word racism, they immediately go on the defensive. Well, I ain't got nothing to do with me, you know what I mean? I'm not racist, you know what I mean? I had nothing to do with slave trade, you know? Or, I think people just make a big deal about it. Or, I think if we don't talk so much about it, it might just disappear. That's that's just a few of the things they would say whenever I mention racism. They go on the defense real quick, you know what I mean? The other thing I notice is, and I don't even know if some of them know that they do it, but the eyes roll. And when the eyes roll, what I'm thinking is, what's going on in their head is, oh man, another black person complaining about racism. Oh man, another black person trying to act like the victim. Now, here's a little bit of advice, white folks, white friends, white people. When you give those responses to somebody who is willing to discuss this blight that seems to be among us, it doesn't leave the door open for discussion so we could figure out how we could get past it. Ignoring it is not going to let us get past it, because as much as we want to just forget it and it's just going to go away, that's not going to happen, because it's always those who's going to bring it up. So what we need to do is educate each other about each other. So when the idiots who are like that brings it up, it doesn't cause a rift between us who wants to get along and who wants to be friends, because we consider each other human and not a color. When you roll your eyes and act like if, oh, we're just complaining, what I want you to do is explain to me how, when I walk the streets sometimes, people drive by and shout "die nigger" at me. How do you think that makes me feel? You know what I mean? I know you can't put yourself in my shoes, because over the history of this new world, you have never felt oppressed by another race per se. I know a lot of white people are claiming that black people are racist now. Whatever makes you feel better. And I'm not saying there isn't, but some people just use it just to make them feel better, even though it's a legitimate case of that happening. However, you're telling me to just forget the fact that somebody just said that I should die because I'm a nigger, which means I'm black. How can I forget that? You know what I mean? Or the excuse they use is, well, that's probably just some drunk man. How do I know that? I don't know that. Somebody just told me I should die. That doesn't sound like just some drunk fool going to me, especially if I'm walking the street at night. And I know it's hard to explain how it feels. I know it's hard. That's one reason why I don't get angry whenever it seems to get dismissed. You know. The other part of it is rolling your eyes and acting like if you're playing the victim. I'm not playing the victim. Ain't nobody gonna stop me from being who I am or who I wanna be. As long as I'm not hurting anybody and I'm doing the righteous thing, they're not gonna stop me. But it's not so much what they say, it's the intent behind what they're saying that it doesn't worry me, but it bothers me. Am I gonna have to defend myself? Does this person really mean what they say? That's the kind of thing we need to address and kind of curb it a little bit, because when you respond by absolute defense, that means you're going to be apathetic and not do anything, which doesn't make me feel confident that I'm going to get the back end that I need if somebody comes to me in that manner. And when you tell me to forget it, I can't, because there's a whole history that comes with it. You're not forgetting your history. Your history is taught every day in schools. I can't forget the history of my people and all of that. I'm not going to. That's just not going to happen. Now, the question is, how are we going to use that to further us into a more enlightened era of living? Now, I agree, racism is not as explicit as it used to be. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So, if I want to discuss this with you and you know me, I'm not going to be in your face about it. Let's discuss it. Because it is something that, not on a regular basis, but sometimes I have to face it. And even though most of the time I, for one, respond calmly to it, some people won't. Those are the people that needs help understanding how we could get past that. No, that's my white friends. My black friends. Here's some advice about that. If you want to discuss that with a white person, the last thing you want to do, especially if you see that person is your friend, the last thing you want to say or do, is to become angry. That loses any credibility that you may have coming up after that. No. Just because they roll their eyes and say that you're playing the victim doesn't make them a racist, because I've seen people get into arguments with their white friends. Well, you're a racist because you don't want to acknowledge. They don't understand. So calmly try to get them to understand. If they don't understand still, then maybe they are. I don't know how to put it. You know what I mean? But when you get angry, that just shuts the door for any discussion, period. I'll give you an example. I had a friend who was having a discussion with someone about Barack Obama. And they were going back and forth and stuff like that. And of course, the white guy, he didn't think Obama was fit to be president. And he used a phrase that says, "you people," which caused my friend to just explode. What do you mean, you people? You're racist, blah, 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 blah. And he just went off. And I said, no, instead of going off like that, if you had come back to him with some facts and some logical thinking, that would have been a better way of dealing with the situation. And the reason why is when you explode like that, because black men in particular have been labeled as angry and violent, he's not going to listen to what you say. He's going to think, there's a typical response. Now, what I told him is, you don't see them coming to me with that, because I'm going to come back to them logically and make them look stupid. And if it's the one thing that people who are bigoted or racist hate, it's when they look stupid. Then they get angry and violent, which is what they are accusing us of being. So, and that usually shuts them up for me. Maybe it's because I'm 7 feet tall, but it usually shuts them up for me. So the problem is with both sides. Don't get angry because they're not understanding, because that's like me saying I understand how to be white. I don't know. I'm black. I was born this way. You know what I mean? So it's a common understanding. If a person isn't racist, we should be able to come to a common understanding. We should be able to discuss this and come to some kind of an agreement that we are human beings. Ignoring it is not going to work, especially if I'm walking down the street and I'm getting stuff yelled at me or I'm getting profiled. So we both need to do some compromise in there on how we approach the situation. And just maybe if we do that, then we could get past this, or at least get some measure of understanding to where it's not such an issue that's going to create, that's going to, I got an even better one. It's not going to be an issue to where politicians could use it as a way to pin us against each other. Because pretty much that's what they do. And if you look at Fox News, race baiting, they're not trying to solve the situation. They casting blame. And if you look at news, the news people, who are the ones that's supposed to, and even if they give an opinion, are supposed to bring the people together to bring peace, what they do is, okay, Fox will bring on somebody who is ultra on the black side, and they'll be ultra on the right side, on the white side, and then they'll just fight. So they're not looking for a resolution. Most ordinary people get along with each other. Some of them listen to these idiots on Fox and MSNBC, and they bring these people in there to argue about it. You know what I mean? Somehow these days, debate has become argue and one-upping. And he got it, man. Nobody's winning. It's not a matter of win or lose. We will win when we all start getting along. Period. That's when we will freaking win, when we all start getting along. None of us is more superior than the other. Period. You know what I mean? As much as they have demonized Africa, a lot of the philosophies that we know and we have came from Africa. The Greeks took it from there. Boom, take it to their place and used it. But they make it seem like Africans are stupid and not smart. Recently, we had a little African kid in Nigeria got accepted to all Ivy League colleges. How many times has that been done? Obviously, we're not stupid. Gotta stop listening to them polytricksters, man. See? Because the majority of us are poor, black and white. But if they keep us separated, they control. So us as people, the masses and thing, we have to get together and able to talk this out. I hear black people talk about revolution, white people talk about revolution. So when you have your revolution, how are you going to get along? You think it's just going to magically happen unless we talk about it? It's not going to magically happen. So each side have to have some kind of sensibilities whenever it comes to discussing the situation. I know. Once again, here I come with this simplistic idea of how to solve things. But how is we going to solve it, man? Like I always say, we could blast off into space. We could make a bomb that would kill all of us. But we can't just sit down and talk. Sitting down and talk is simplistic. That's a simple thing to do. And I know there's issues to go on, but we could at least listen to each other. Why is it that every time somebody talk about sitting down and talking or trying to get some kind of peace, they're either weak or they want somebody else dead? And that's why Fox and MSN and CS, whatever these talking heads are, they don't care about that. They make money by the division. While we are all divided and struggling to make ends meet, and most of us living from paycheck to paycheck, they're sitting high and mighty with their good ratings because they brought us on there. We fighting, and all of us are sitting there like we're watching two people in a gladiator ring, like it's old Roman times, only without the fists and the fighting, and it totally divides society. So the conversation have to start with people who claim to be friends and who claim to understand and love each other. That's where it have to start. One drop. Well, Marley said, one drop, and it spreads. So think about that. Think about that while you're moving on, listening to all these talking heads jabbering in your head and telling you what to think. Think for yourself for a change. We all need to think for ourselves. So Think about that. And comment in the bottom. Tell me what you think about all of this. Subscribe, like, dislike, criticize, do whatever you want under there, because then we could start a conversation about this. Okay, and remember, whatever color you are, always walk in peace.